The quiet before the storm, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderbolt, watching the swirling colors of the Helix Nebula dance across the main view screen. 3 months had passed since humanity's first contact with the Zilithian Empire, and today was supposed to mark the beginning of a new era. The signing of the Terra-Zilithian Trade Agreement would open doors to advanced technology and peaceful cooperation between their species. "Captain, we're receiving transmission from the Zilithian diplomatic vessel," reported Dr. Marcus Thompson from his communication station. The former linguistics professor had been pulled from his university position specifically for this mission. His expertise in xenolinguistics had proven invaluable during the preliminary negotiations. "Put them through, Doctor," Sarah replied, smoothing her dress uniform. She had served in 3 interstellar conflicts, but diplomacy still made her more nervous than facing enemy fire. The main screen flickered, revealing the elegant form of Commander Vex-High, the Zilithian diplomat who had been working tirelessly to establish relations with humanity. His species resembled tall, graceful beings with crystalline skin that reflected light in prismatic patterns. When he spoke, his voice carried musical tones that the translation matrix converted into perfect English. "Captain Chen, it is an honor to meet you in person. High Counselor Zarathik sends her greetings and looks forward to today's ceremony. We have prepared the signing chamber aboard our vessel as previously arranged." Sarah nodded respectfully. "The honor is ours, Commander. Admiral Foster will be joining us shortly with the full delegation. We're looking forward to this historic moment." As the transmission ended, Sarah felt a sense of cautious optimism. The Zilithians had approached humanity with genuine desire for peace, sharing stories of their own struggles against cosmic threats. Their advanced technology could help humanity expand further into the galaxy, while human military expertise could assist in protecting Zilithian colonies from raiders. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station, "I'm detecting some unusual solar activity in the nearby system. Looks like a massive coronal mass ejection heading our way." Dr. Thompson looked up from his station with concern. "Captain, that level of electromagnetic interference could disrupt our communications array. We should warn the Zilithian vessel." Before Sarah could respond, Admiral Jackson Foster's voice crackled over the intercom. "All vessels, this is Admiral Foster. We've detected an incoming solar storm that may affect communications. All ships, maintain position and prepare for possible signal disruption." The veteran admiral commanded the 7th Human Defense Fleets with the same iron discipline that had seen him through the Proxima Wars. His flagship, the UES Defiant, was positioned alongside 12 other vessels in what was supposed to be a show of respect for the Zilithian delegation. Dr. Thompson, send a message to the Zilithian ship about the solar storm, Sarah ordered. "Let them know we may experience communication difficulties." "Aye, Captain. Sending now." Thompson's fingers danced across his console. "Message transmitted, but I'm already seeing interference in the quantum communication channels." The solar storm hit 30 minutes later with the force of a cosmic hurricane. Electromagnetic radiation washed over both fleets, causing systems to flicker and communications to crackle with static. On the Zilithian diplomatic vessel, Commander Vex-High was in the middle of final preparations when his communications officer brought disturbing news. "Commander, we're receiving emergency transmissions from our outer colonies. The signals are badly corrupted, but it appears the Devourers have been detected in the Kepler sector." Vex-High felt his crystalline skin dim with worry. The Devourers were an ancient threat that had plagued Zilithian space for centuries. Massive biomechanical entities that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing but empty void in their wake. If they were moving toward inhabited systems, millions of lives were at stake. Can you clean up the transmission? Vexai asked. Urgently. The solar storm is making it impossible, Commander. I'm only getting fragments. Single quote, DEVO, URERS, ... approaching, ... human assistance. Colonies at risk. On the human side, Dr. Thompson was struggling with similar communication. Problems. The Zilithian transmissions were coming through as fragmented bursts of unintelligible noise. His translation matrix, damaged by the electromagnetic interference, was producing increasingly alarming interpretations. Captain, Thompson called out, his voice tense with worry. I'm receiving transmissions from the Zilithian vessel, but the translation software is malfunctioning. The fragments I'm getting are ... disturbing. Sarah moved to his station. What kind of fragments? Thompson's face was pale as he read from his screen. Something about devourers approaching human colonies and immediate assistance required. But Captain, the way the translator is interpreting it, it sounds like they're talking about devouring human colonies themselves. The bridge fell silent except for the crackling of interference. Sarah felt her military instincts kicking in. Are you certain about that translation, Doctor? The software is severely compromised, Captain. It's possible that ... No, wait. I'm getting another fragment. Something about human assistance, but it's coming through as human resistance must be eliminated. Lieutenant Torres looked up from her sensor station. Captain, the Zilithian ships are changing formation. They're adopting what appears to be an attack pattern. Sarah's blood ran cold. She had seen this before during the Proxima Wars. Diplomatic meetings that turned into ambushes. Species that smiled while preparing to strike. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Alarms began blaring throughout the ship as the crew rushed to their combat positions. On the Zilithian vessel, similar preparations were underway, but for entirely different reasons. Commander Vexai was trying desperately to contact the human fleet about the approaching devourer threat. Commander, his tactical officer reported, the human ships are powering up their weapons. They appear to be preparing for battle. Vexai was confused. Battle? We're here for a peace treaty. Try to contact them again. Sir, our communications are still being disrupted by the solar storm. Any message we send will be corrupted. Admiral Foster's voice boomed across the human fleet communications. All vessels, this is Admiral Foster. We have reason to believe. The Zilithian delegation is not what it appears to be. Intelligence suggests they may be planning an attack on human colonies. All ships prepare for possible hostile action. The Admiral had received the same corrupted transmissions that Dr. Thompson had intercepted. Years of military experience had taught him to trust his instincts. And right now, those instincts were screaming that humanity was walking into a trap on the EU's Thunderbolt. Sarah was coordinating with her officers. Dr. Thompson, any luck getting clearer communications? Negative, Captain. The solar storm is still interfering with our systems, but I'm continuing to receive fragments that suggest the Zilithians are planning something against human colonies. The most recent transmission mentioned beginning the harvest and human resistance. Sarah felt her jaw tighten. During the Proxima Wars, the enemy had used similar language when describing their plans to enslave human populations. Lieutenant Torres, what's the status of the Zilithian fleet? They're maintaining formation, Captain, but their weapons are powered up. I'm also detecting some kind of scanning activity directed at our ships. What Torres didn't know was that the Zilithians were conducting standard diplomatic scans, trying to ensure that both fleets remained safe during the solar storm. But through the lens of suspicion and corrupted communications, even peaceful gestures appeared threatening. Commander Vexhai made one more attempt to contact the human fleet. "This is Commander Vexhai to Admiral Foster. We have urgent news about a threat to both our species. The Devourers are approaching inhabited systems. We request immediate conference to coordinate our response." But when the message reached Dr. Thompson's damaged translation matrix, it came through as, "This is Commander Vexhai to Admiral Foster. We have urgent plans for a threat to both our species. The Devourers are approaching inhabited systems. We request immediate conference to coordinate our attack." Dr. Thompson's face went white. "Captain, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. They're talking about coordinating an attack on inhabited systems. They want to meet with Admiral Foster to plan it." Sarah felt the familiar surge of protective anger that had driven her through every battle of her career. The Zilithians had seemed so peaceful, so genuine in their desire for cooperation. But now they were revealing their true nature, just like the Proxima Coalition had done 20 years ago. "Get me Admiral Foster," she ordered. The Admiral's weathered face appeared on the screen, his expression grim. "Captain Chen, I've been monitoring the communications. It appears we've walked into a trap." "Sir, the Zilithians are talking about attacking inhabited systems. They want to coordinate with us, probably to get us to lower our guard." Foster nodded slowly. "Captain, I've seen this before. Species that approach us with talks of peace while planning to stab us in the back. The question is, do we give them the first shot, or do we act to protect human colonies?" Sarah thought about the millions of civilians living on the frontier worlds, families who had left Earth to build new lives among the stars, children who were counting on the fleet to protect them from exactly this kind of threat. "Admiral, what are your orders?" "Captain Chen, prepare your ship for battle. But don't fire unless fired upon. I want to give them one last chance to explain themselves." As the two fleets maneuvered in the cosmic dance of impending conflict, neither side realized that they were both preparing to fight the wrong enemy. The real threat, the ancient horror known as the Devourers, was already on its way to the system, drawn by the energy signatures of the gathered fleets in the swirling colors of the Helix Nebula. Two species that should have been allies were about to go to war over a misunderstanding. But sometimes the greatest victories come from the darkest moments, and humanity was about to prove once again that they never back down from a fight, even when that fight is against their own misconceptions. The solar storm continued to rage, keeping both sides in the dark about each other's true intentions. But in the silence between the static, something else was listening, something ancient and hungry, something that had been waiting for just such an opportunity. The Devourers were coming, and when they arrived, both humans and Zilithians would learn that their real enemy had been circling them all along. When humanity says, "Not today," the standoff had lasted for 3 tense hours. Two fleets, human and Zilithian, faced each other across the void while the solar storm continued to scramble. Their communications. Captain Sarah Chen paced the bridge of the UES Thunderbolt, her military training warring with a growing sense that something was terribly wrong. "Dr. Thompson," she called to her communications officer, "any improvement in the translation matrix?" "Captain," Thompson replied, his brow furrowed in concentration. "The electromagnetic interference is starting to fade, but our systems took a real beating. I'm getting cleaner signals now, but He paused, looking confused. "Captain, I think we may have made a serious error." Before Sarah could respond, Lieutenant Torres shouted from her sensor station. "Captain, new contacts entering the system. Multiple bogies, massive energy signatures. They're not human or Zilithian." The main view screen shifted to show the sensor data. What they saw made everyone on the bridge freeze in horror. Enormous biomechanical entities were emerging from hyperspace, each one the size of a small moon. Their surfaces writhed with organic tissue fused to metallic components, and they moved with the purposeful hunger of predators. "Dear God," whispered Dr. Thompson. "Captain, I'm getting clear translations now. The Zilithians weren't threatening us. They were warning us. Those things, they call them devourers." Sarah felt her stomach drop. "How many?" 12 confirmed. "Captain, possibly more incoming." On the Zilithian diplomatic vessel, Commander Vexhai was experiencing the same moment of terrible clarity. His communications officer had finally managed to clean up the human transmissions, and the truth was devastating. "Commander," the officer reported, "the humans weren't planning to attack us. Their translation systems were damaged by the solar storm. They thought we were threatening their colonies." Vexhai felt his crystalline skin flicker with despair. "And now the Devourers are here. Both our fleets are damaged and scattered because of a misunderstanding." The largest of the Devourer entities began to pulse with malevolent energy. Tendrils extended from its surface, reaching toward the nearest planet in the system. Where they touched, the world's surface began to dissolve, its matter being absorbed into the creature's mass. Admiral Foster's voice crackled over the human. "Fleet communication. All vessels, this is Admiral Foster. We have a new priority. Those entities are consuming the planet. All ships prepare for immediate action." "Admiral," Captain Chen's voice cut through the static, "we need to coordinate with the Zilithian fleet. They've been fighting these things for centuries." "Agreed, Captain. Dr. Thompson, can you establish clear communication with the Zilithian commander?" Thompson worked frantically at his console. "Yes, sir. The storm has passed enough for basic communication. Patching you through now." Commander Vexhai's image appeared on the screen, his crystalline features reflecting the orange glow of the dying planet. "Admiral Foster, Captain Chen, I deeply regret the misunderstanding between our peoples, but we must act quickly. The Devourers have found us." Admiral Foster's weathered face was grim but determined. "Commander, what do we need to know? These entities feed on energy and matter. Conventional weapons only make them stronger. Our ancestors fought them for millennia before discovering they have one weakness, which is," Sarah asked. "They cannot process quantum-entangled particles. If you can destabilize their quantum structure, they collapse into inert matter." Engineer Jake Rodriguez, monitoring the conversation from the EU's Defiant, spoke up over the com. "Admiral, our quantum torpedo warheads might work, but we'd need to get close enough to penetrate their bioarmor." "How close?" Foster asked. "Point-blank range, sir. Someone would have to get within 1,000 kilometers." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. 1,000 kilometers from a devourer would put any ship well within the range of its absorption field. It would be a suicide mission. Sarah made the decision that would define her career. "Admiral, the Thunderbolt volunteers. We have the most experienced crew for this type of mission." "Captain Chen," Vexhai interrupted, "allow me to accompany you. Zilithian ships have better shielding against absorption fields. Together, we might both survive." General Rebecca Stone, commanding the human ground forces, added her voice to the discussion. If we're doing this, we need to hit them all at once. Otherwise, they'll adapt to our attack. The plan came together quickly. Human quantum torpedoes would be transferred to Zilithian vessels, which would use their superior shielding to get close enough for effective strikes. Meanwhile, the remaining ships would provide covering fire and evacuation support for the colony worlds in the system. As the combined fleet prepared for battle, an unexpected voice joined the communication network. It was a young Zilithian named Zethara, barely out of adolescence, who had been monitoring the exchanges from her position on a science vessel. "Commanders," she said, her voice trembling with excitement, "I've been studying the Devourer energy patterns. If we can create a resonance cascade between our quantum weapons and their biomechanical systems, we might be able to chain react the collapse across multiple entities." Dr. Thompson looked at his calculations. "That's theoretically possible, but the timing would have to be perfect. We'd need to coordinate our strikes within microseconds." "Humans are good at impossible timing," Sarah said with a grim smile. "Let's do this." The battle began as the combined fleet moved toward the Devourer swarm. The entities turned their attention from the dying planet to the approaching ships, recognizing them as a more immediate threat. Massive biomechanical weapons emerged from their surfaces, firing streams of corrosive energy that could dissolve matter at the molecular level. The human destroyer US Lightning was the first to fall, its hull dissolved by a direct hit from a Devourer weapon. But Captain Rodriguez had pushed his ship beyond its limits, using the explosion to mask the approach of the Zilithian vessels carrying the quantum torpedoes. "All strike teams," Admiral Foster's voice came over the com. "This is it. For every human colony, for every Zilithian world, for every species that refuses to be consumed." The Thunderbolt, now equipped with Zilithian shielding, dove toward the largest Devourer. Sarah could see the creature's surface writhing as it prepared to absorb her ship. At the last moment, she fired the quantum torpedoes directly into what appeared to be the entity's core. The explosion was unlike anything she had ever seen. The Devourer's biomechanical structure began to unravel at the quantum level, its matter returning to its component atoms. But more importantly, the resonance cascade that young Zethara had predicted began to propagate through the quantum field. One by one, the other Devourers began to collapse. Their ancient biomechanical systems, evolved over millions of years to be nearly indestructible, had never encountered the specific quantum signature of human weapons enhanced by Zilithian technology. "It's working," Zethara's voice was filled with wonder. "The cascade is spreading to all of them." Within minutes, 12 entities that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia were reduced to harmless clouds of atoms. The immediate threat was over, but the real victory was just beginning. In the aftermath of the battle, as rescue ships moved to evacuate the surviving population from the damaged planet, Admiral Foster and Commander Vex High met in person for the first time. The ceremony was held aboard the UES Defiant with representatives from both species present. Admiral Vex High said, his crystalline skin reflecting the warm light of the ship's interior. "Today we learned that even the worst misunderstandings can lead to the greatest victories. Humanity's refusal to back down from a fight, even when that fight was based on a mistake, saved both our species." Foster nodded, thinking of all the lives that had been lost and saved. "Commander, we also learned that some fights are worth having, even when you're fighting the wrong enemy. Because sometimes fighting the wrong enemy prepares you for the right one." Captain Sarah Chen, her uniform still bearing scorch marks from the battle, stepped forward. What matters now is what we do next. The devourers may be gone, but there are other threats out there. Together, we're stronger than apart. Dr. Thompson, his translation matrix finally working perfectly, added, and we've learned the importance of clear communication. No more misunderstandings that could lead to war. Young Zethara, now being hailed as a hero by both species, looked out at the stars through the ship's viewport. The galaxy is full of wonders and horrors, but with humans and Zilithians working together, I think we can face whatever comes next. The signing ceremony that had been planned for that morning finally took place that evening. But instead of a simple trade agreement, they signed something far more significant, a mutual defense pact that would unite their species against any future threats. As the celebration continued into the night, Sarah stood alone on the observation deck, watching the stars. She thought about how close they had come to destroying each other over a communications error, but she also thought about how that same error had led them to discover their greatest enemy and defeat it through cooperation. Engineer Rodriguez joined her at the viewport. Captain, I've been thinking about what happened today. We went from preparing to fight each other to saving each other in the space of a few hours. That's humanity for you, Jake, Sarah replied. We're stubborn enough to fight anyone, even when we're wrong. But we're also smart enough to recognize when we need to fight together. And the Zilithians, they're honorable enough to forgive our mistakes and wise enough to help us fix them. As the combined fleet prepared to return to their respective homes, both species carried with them the knowledge that the galaxy was a dangerous place. But they also carried the knowledge that they didn't have to face those dangers alone. The devourers were gone, destroyed by the combined ingenuity of human quantum weapons and Zilithian technology, coordinated by the brilliant mind of a young scientist who saw patterns where others saw chaos. But their defeat was more than just a military victory. It was proof that understanding is more powerful than assumption, that cooperation is stronger than conflict, and that sometimes the best way to avoid a war is to fight one together. In the end, humanity had responded to a transmission error with warships, but they had also responded to a greater threat with alliance, courage, and the unshakable belief that no enemy, no matter how ancient or powerful, could stand against the combined determination of species that refused to surrender. The stars watched as the two fleets departed, carrying with them the promise of a future where humans and Zilithians would stand together against whatever the galaxy might throw at them. And in the silence between the stars, where the devourers had once lurked, there was now only the echo of victory and the whisper of hope.